Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Decide Your Best Life mini podcast series. And today I wanted to kind of reflect back on a couple of episodes ago. So, when we started this series at the beginning of June, episodes 1 and 2, I really talked about the mindset mastery. And I'm using air quotes if you're not watching this over on YouTube. And I use the air quotes because mastery. Is there really such a thing? I mean, I immediately turned to sports because that's what I love. And I don't think there's any athlete that's really mastered any sport. And when it comes to the mind, dear God, there is no such thing as mastery. However, I want to really understand that it is an evolution. And I think that you're constantly going to be changing. You know, a lot of my clients know, if my clients are listening to this and you're watching on YouTube, I'm using my hands right now. And I always say that, you know, your good days and your bad days are like here. And what we want to do with your bad days is we want to shrink your bad days. We want to shrink how quickly you can get over the bad days, how fast you can continue. And I think that that's the evolution of the mindset mastery, if you want to call it. And today I wanted to kind of talk about like how to kind of keep going when it feels like things really aren't changing. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to look back at the beginning stages of your journey. And for me in particular, and I'm thinking of a couple of clients, I recently did an intensive session with a new client. And I remember from our first call, when we first connected to our intensive session, which was only, you know, a few days, I said, how's things going? And she said, you know what? Like I can actually see a difference. And I thought, oh my God, yes, I'm so excited. I'm so happy, because that's exactly it, right? Even just like that 1% of difference compounded over 6 months, a year, 6 years, whatever it is life changing. And I think so many times, I think I even mentioned it on the last mini podcast, is that, you know, a lot of times people want this instant gratification. And when it comes to reprogramming the mind, when it comes to actually making lasting, lifelong change, it is going to take time. Like everything worth it takes time. And maybe that line you can remember, and you can just say, like, everything worth it takes time. And hopefully that'll keep you going when you're having a day where you feel like it's all not working. And when you are having those days when you feel like it's all not working, I really want you to think about this: the beginning stages of when you really started taking action on your mindset, when you really started those affirmations, when you really started diving into gratitude, when you really started going, you know what, I am no longer going to believe this, think this, I no longer am going to repeat this, I'm no longer going to be this person. Think about how far you have come. Think about that evolution. And I think what that's going to do is it's going to help you see that, yeah, you have made some changes. Yeah, you have had progress. You know, a lot of my clients who have worked with me for, let's just say, over a couple of years, and I definitely have a handful of them, a lot of them don't look at our session notes towards, like, you know, like 2 years in, 3 years in, they don't really look at our session notes as much. And they're like, a couple of my clients are like, you don't, you know, you don't even have to give me session notes anymore. I take a few notes that I need and I can come back to it. And I was like, no, those are for me. Those notes are for me to remind me where we were a year ago, 6 months ago, 6 weeks ago, whatever it was, because I need to be able to see the evolution. I need to be able to show you how far you have come, how much has changed. You know, just the other day, one of my amazing clients, she owns a retail store, and she's like, gosh, our number was, you know, our numbers have been down, our revenue has been down this month. And so I looked back to a year ago and I was like, ha, it's okay, makes sense. We were down in revenue last year around this time, or there's a bit of a drop because, you know, kids are graduating, it's spring break, whatever. And then guess what? It picks back up. And to be able to say that and to show that, it gives the person confidence. It gives my clients confidence that, like, okay, nothing dramatic has happened, or maybe something really has happened. We can see that, like, there was a big peak however long ago, but now all of a sudden there's a bit of a valley. Okay, what's happening? How do we readjust? But I think it's helpful. And now this doesn't have to do with business. This can be you looking back at where you were. How many bad days did you have? How long did your bad days last? Myself personally, I remember when I first started to get into mindset work and personal development, I was like, my days, you guys, my bad days, I use days very lightly because my bad days used to be like bad months, sometimes bad weeks, bad multi-days in a long time. Now I can usually get out of a bad, quote unquote, a bad day in a couple hours, sometimes less than a few minutes, because I know how to do it. And that builds confidence. And that gives me like proof that guess what? It's okay. You're a human doing human things. I literally just sent a client that message. I was like, don't worry, you're a human. You're having a human day. Don't make yourself wrong about it. It's fine. We're going to figure it out and you're going to be fine tomorrow because you know how to get yourself out of it. You know that the thing that you're worried about, we either know a strategy or a mindset in order to get yourself out of it. And I think that that helps you build confidence and get through it. You know, this morning I've had a bad back for a few weeks and I was at a chiropractor and this woman said something to me. She's like, oh yeah, I kind of know what you do. Like I have a few affirmations. I have a therapist who told me to do some affirmations, but I quit doing them. They didn't work. And I'm like, oh, that's too bad. You know, she's already got someone helping her. You don't need a million different voices in your head. But what I would want to say if she was asking me my opinion or if I was talking to a client, I would say, guess what? They work until you work, or they work as long as you work them. And I truly do believe that you do it until. I was recently just talking to a client, a newer client of mine, and she's like, well, how do I know that they're working? I was like, you just decide it's your turn, decide your best life. Do you like how I threw that in there? I always try to do that over on Instagram. But all of that to be said, I was like, you just decide to do them until like there's no finish line. You just do them until. And if you're willing to do them until, they're gonna fucking work. And you literally cannot stop doing affirmations. You literally cannot stop doing mindset work. You literally cannot stop, you know, the coaching process or whatever it is until you just do it until it works. And number one, that takes off the pressure. And number two, that's how it actually works, is because you do it until it actually works. And if you do it, it works. It is literally science, guys. Like it is 100% factual that if you are willing to do it, it will work. It will not work if you do it. And something else that I always try to say, I call it like, and I didn't, this isn't my thing, but like, I call it like the God on the shelf mentality. You know, when things are going good and sometimes people like put God on the shelf, like things are going really good. I don't really need him right now. Well, that's why things are going good. And then some people on the flip side are like, things are going shitty. I'm putting God on the shelf. Like he's my problem or it's not working. Well, that's why it's bad, because you put God on the shelf. Just like affirmations, just like mindset work, just like continual support in your business and your life. Like this is the reason why I live and breathe and die this work, is because I believe it to my core that having support, having mindset support, having strategy support is life changing and it works. And so you don't put it on the shelf when things are good and you don't put it on the shelf when things are bad. The reason why they're bad is because you're not actually doing the thing. And the reason why it's good is because you're actually doing the thing. So quit not doing the thing. And that's kind of what I wanted to tell that woman about the affirmations. She's like, well, I just thought I was saying them, saying a bunch of lies out loud. Well, guess what? Sometimes in the beginning, you're going to pretend like you're going to think that you're lying to yourself. You're going to think that you're lying to yourself when you're saying these affirmations. But eventually, you're actually going to notice the difference because you say it until it works. You just decide to keep going. You become the person who keeps going. You know, guess what? If you always have an excuse for why you can't do something, you will always have an excuse for why you can't do something. And I really think it's really helpful for you to reflect back on where you were, the progress that you've made, even if it's just incremental. It doesn't matter. That compounded over time will change the game for you. You know, how has your mindset changed? How have you grown? Write that down, spill it out, have someone supporting you. Like if you want to change your mind and you want to grow and you want to do these things, figure out how to look back and reflect of just the tiniest changes. And that is going to give you the confidence to keep going. If you don't have someone continually supporting you, if you don't have someone to reflect with, a client messaged me just the other day and she's like, oh my God, I am just so overwhelmed. But guess what? At the end of like a 7-minute message to me, she's like, I feel much better. I'm like, yeah, that's my job, is to help you, give you the external perspective, allow you to put things in perspective, just be here to vent with you, just be here to listen with you. And then also for how we together can figure out, how to prioritize certain things so you aren't so overwhelmed. A lot of my clients come to me because they are overwhelmed in their business life, they're overwhelmed in their personal life, and my job is to really help them get that overhead perspective and reflect on what is actually happening, to figure out how we can delegate or delete or just, put it on the back burner for a minute. And sometimes people just need the permission to fucking do that. And so if you're listening today and you have this laundry list of everything, I give you the permission to just delete, delegate, and come back to it if you want. But the time is now. There's no such thing as mastery when it comes to your mindset. And that's the reason why I'm doing this little series here, just to remind you is that you're not going to be perfect. You are going to have bad days. You are a human being doing human things. So don't forget that, but do reflect back on how much you have changed and how much doing the little tiny intentional actions of the affirmations, the mindset work, the gratitude, all the things that we've been talking about today have truly helped you. So don't forget to look back. And if you ever need support, I am here for you. Please send me a message over on Instagram at bchristina, or send me a text message 501-222-3362. I will see ya tomorrow for another mini Live Your Best Life series.